fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What people do eat no money, what people at you, eat no at you. Could be money missing, we eat the your little rat you. Use the youth, them on the waste, must have man to statue. Say me like a catch you, but bigger than a figure you. Take the spit of money, God and say that is not you. One day the man above end up, him a got a too much eat in the kitchen, some a fly by like a patu. My singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me
300% free.
It burn me
garbage pile of the day.
It burn me
give the teacher them raise.
It burn me
I see corruption face.
It burn me
mash down the people them house.
It burn me
every day appear arms out.
It burn me
appear money them a thief.
It burn me
and them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
For me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The 100 the promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, they rap and they down in a whatever. Member bowl only and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and them pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me
or they treat the market man.
It burn me
or them a treat the cat man.
It burn me
or they treat the peanut man.
It burn me
or them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me
or them a treat the son man.
It burn me
or them a treat policeman.
It burn me
how them a treat soldier man.
It burn me
how them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again.
Global TV send another one. Oh, 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 oh. Global TV, I send them home. Yeah, man, this is Michael Buckley. I tell you, say, yo, the Global TV, yeah, man, me represent that 100%. Play the music, Global. Boom shot.
Constitutional crisis, political chaos, and spending calamity. Good morning and welcome to the Global Television Group. It is your program at a glance. Chaos to crisis. Good morning and welcome. I don't really see anything much to celebrate. It finally looked like Parlagon. There's two conflicting, in my mind, articles just published in the Gleaner within the last half an hour. The two of them confused me, but there's a lot to read in the Gleaner this morning. I don't know if I go get through to all of that, but there's a lot of information in the Gleaner we would want to waddle through. The fight continues at tax administration of Jamaica. The fight against transparency over there, as them a fight everywhere. But good morning to everyone on YouTube, on Facebook, the X, and the Twitch. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hold on there. Let me go up to the top. Patricia Matthews, good morning. Good morning. Good morning to Denton Graham. Good morning and welcome. Debbie Jervis, good morning. Natalia Freeman, good morning. Abinas Cody, good morning and welcome. Thank you for your membership. The Global TV membership is growing. Thank you very much for your support, Abina. Marcia Estate, Teach and Teach, Wagwan. Annie Smith. Sunshine, Wagwan. Alison Hamilton, Wagwan. Long time you not catch a live. Wagwan, Alison. Violet Watson, Yvonne Johnson, Simone Beckford, Paula Shelley, Errol Clark, Mary Lewis Wilson, Queer Vibes, good morning. Thank you for joining the Global TV family. Jason Kane, good morning. Angela 48349, Audrey Robinson, Beulah, good morning. Jamaican Foodie. Agency Driver 5, Wagwan, veteran, big up yourself. What's going on, bro? JC Bros, good morning and welcome. I'm gonna take time with my idea. When I scroll, it get me dizzy. Beulah, good morning. Jason Kane, good morning. Monica Hawthorne, good morning. Good morning. Lorraine Barrett, good morning. JC Delroy Henry, Noreen Dennison, good morning. Mary Messenger TV, Angela Musenden, good morning. Inner Circle, Real Black Woman, good morning. Carlene Richards, good morning. Delroy Henry, good morning. Good morning. Raymond, good morning. Christine Gilbert, good morning all and welcome. It look like Parlagon, but it don't look like Parlagon. Brenda Elson, good morning. But let us do some housekeeping first and some public service information. Housekeeping. For this week, I will be very busy. So we will only be having the At a Glance program this time and the People's Point of View, the nighttime program. A part of the week, I'll be moving away to the West Midlands. So a part of the week, I will not be in studio. I will try to still keep up to date with everything and do the usual lives, mainly behind the screen. I'm also attending a funeral, which I probably will be covering on Friday. So I'm going to be busy here and there over this week, but I'll still try to keep it to 2 shows per day. Public service announcement. Well, ladies, sir, the call ladies, sir. It is becoming a joke now. Mr. Ladies, sir, preach. And ladies, sir, have up Cash App. Ladies, sir, have up Zelle. Ladies, sir, have up all sort. Because it looked like offering in a church alone is not enough. Rosemary Samuels, how are you? Pastor Lady Star, come out of the people in pocket for God's sake. Go back on the stage because it's all about money. Nothing else. Not there to Pastor Lady Star. Jacqueline Murray, good morning. There's nothing here, Pastor Lady Star. Other than about money, fame and popularity. How you don't have church member in your church? Victor Williams, you're raking pan line and you're raking in a church. Diane Campbell. What go on, sis? Carlene Jones. Good afternoon. How are you? So that's one side of the public service announcement. A predator, Christopher, good morning, called the minister of Obia and Dance. A predator, a sexual predator, Rena, good morning. A sexual predator is on the loose in our country. Who are we talking about? Reverend Kirk Franklin. Do not allow your children around this predator. Do not be fooled by the minister of Obia and Dance and allow your children around a roaming sexual predator. Perspective Park, good morning. So, we're not careful. Those were the public service announcements. But let's listen to Mark Golden before we waddle away into the readings. I could tell Paula this first. And not just Paula, the entire JLP core.
And I'm still not clear whether my thoughts are clear on this point, that term limits are a good thing. I think no matter how good a dancer you are, you must leave the stage. No matter how good a dancer you are, you must leave the stage. And I think, and Mzee Wariobe, I'll come back to you because you are there. When Mwalimu wanted to leave office, there was no shortage of people telling, Mzee utatuacha mayatima. And Mwalimu was clear that this is the time to leave. You must know when to leave. In fact, the best time to leave is when people say they want you to stay.
The best time to leave is when people tell you they want you to stay. Let's listen to Mark Golden's statement that was released yesterday, and then we get into a whole rafter of articles. Norman Ferguson, but particularly the tax administration of Jamaica debacle, and their standing behind the Data Protection Act to avoid transparency. Keith Salmon, Deron Daly, Lilith Foster. Let us listen to Mark Golden's statement for those of you who may not have yet heard it.
People's National Party is issuing this urgent statement to the nation in light of the government's confused response to last Friday's Constitutional Court ruling, which declared that the legislation to extend the tenure of the former DPP beyond September 23 last year is unconstitutional and void. Our objective is to ensure that the nation avoids the impending constitutional crisis that could arise should there be no acting DPP in place by tomorrow morning. As our eminent legal representatives have pointed out with clarity in their urgent correspondence to the government's legal team yesterday, the continuation of Ms. Llewellyn in her post beyond her lawful term is not only unconstitutional, but is also a grave misstep in governance. A copy of their letter has been published with our release to the media this afternoon to underscore the severe implications of ignoring the court's ruling. If the government adamantly insists on the former DPP continuing to purport to hold that office, her actions would no longer be validated by law, and it could plunge the country into an even deeper crisis. Furthermore, the current absence of a public service commission, whose term was negligently allowed to expire on the 31st of March this year, without a new commission being put in place to ensure seamless public administration, is a significant oversight by the government that could hinder ongoing public services, including the critical appointment of an acting DPP. Finally, it is clear that the public statements of the Attorney General, Dr. Derek McCoy, and the Minister of Justice, the Honorable Delroy Chuck, in the wake of the Constitutional Court's decision, represent either a profound misunderstanding or a deliberate obfuscation of the law as expressed in the judgment of the Constitutional Court. Their actions have fatally undermined their credibility as holders of those important offices. Accordingly, the People's National Party is calling for their immediate resignations as Attorney General and Minister of Justice, respectively. We urge this administration to consider the gravity of this situation and to act in the best interests of Jamaica's democratic principles and good
governance. Yesterday, Delroy Chucker here say you get a lashing. Yesterday. But the Gleaner cartoonist, say Marlene Malaho fought, say she never know, as the constitutional minister of constitutional confusion, say Parla extension unconstitutional. But cabinet reshuffle is coming. That is what I'm waiting for, because Nestor Morgan, don't be confused that Nestor Morgan is yet gone. Nestor Morgan was the PR head for the Jamaica Labour Party, as well as the information minister for the government. What he has resigned from is the PR mouthpiece of the Jamaica Labour Party. He is still over here, the Minister of Misinformation, Gobbles and Slants. So, nothing much to celebrate there. Paula, step aside to avoid crisis. Stepping aside to avoid crisis. Are you stepping aside to avoid crisis? Me not understand what going in the article them. Feda fe get some executive position in the Jamaica Labour Party. It's just a waddle of scandals, never ending saga going on. But this will toast the real dictator that Andrew Holness is. But a long time Andrew Holness and that dictatorial behavior exists. It's not just today or yesterday. Andrew Holness has been violating the norms and the rules since he was leader of opposition. We saw where he was tackled by Chris Tufton and Arthur something or other. Nigel Rochester, Angela Robinson, Patricia Williams, Gloria Morris. Good morning and welcome, Amazing Grace. From Andrew in an opposition, Andrew upon this rule breaking and rule violating. Because it was wrapped up in his optics and theatrics and in rhetorics, it missed a lot of us that Andrew emerged as a dictator. Carmen Forrest, how are you? Herbert Tuesland. Andrew just turn out it. A lot of us in the landscape here we're focusing on his dictatorial behavior. We've been zooming in Arthur Williams. Thank you very much, Noreen. Since 2020 election and that undemocratic landslide he got in the representative, controlling the representative and the Senate, thereby controlling the entire legislature as well as the executive. Because all of them something I did wrapped up in theatrics, in rhetoric and everything. A lot of us weren't focusing. We started to focus since 2020. But he has long been a dictator. He emerged on the scene Donald Hamilton, as a dictator. We just weren't focusing. But at what point, with all of these constitutional violations, the court has ruled against on Friday, and there is still a limbo, Claudia Fletcher, of cases of constitutional violation in the court or prospective cases that Mark Golden and others, Diane Atkinson, may end up in future take to the Constitutional Court. At what point will the court make a declaration that the current regime is a danger to the Constitution and to our democratic principles and process? At what point the court is going to make such pronouncement for Andrew Holness? What I am waiting for is the announcement of the cabinet reshuffle, because I think that is what will create the rebellion that will bring down the Jamaica Labour Party. Cousin Mern, Wagwan. That will bring down the Jamaica Labour Party, because it will show the real dictatorial behavior of Andrew Holness by reinforcing himself in there with people who he think will protect him to challenge, distant friend, the next general election, which will be a looming death for the Jamaica Labour Party. If Andrew Holness and his wife and a lot of the big players currently, JP, does not step back and give fresh voice, fresh ideas, it is going to create a debacle in the parliament. But I am holding my breath until cabinet reshuffle, because Nesta Nagan, Nesta only resigned as the JLP mouthpiece. We are looking for resignation and removal or reshuffle in the government. I don't care about what strategic move the executive wants to make to revamp the party. What I am concerned about is those at the head of the executive. That is what is creating the problem, the mistrust, the lack of good governance, the parliament brought into disrepute, the executive, which overpowers the legislature, also uses the legislature, its majority in the legislature, to abuse the Constitution and the legislative process continuously. John Pugh, how are you? Continuously, Kenroy Johnson, not a one-off, continuously. So it is a reshuffle that will show us if this government is listening to us. I'm not really much concerned. I quarrel, they want me quarrel over the little likes, you see. That them love the problem. Them love the problem when I quarrel over the little likes. That's why they must see the button and not touching it. Because them don't think it's worthy of touching. No, sir? Come on, man. Hit the like button, whichever platform you're on. It's not that hard, is it? There's 248 of you on global television and producer Wade. Hit the like button, please. Don't go 69 or 79 on so far. Hit the like button, man. Otherwise, when I read an article for this man, and I'm going to have to go read it on yourself, Elga Fletcher. If you don't hit the like button, I'm going to have to go prod through the gleaner. I'm going to read them long article for yourself this man and make phone I burn on when I'm done. So this not give me no joy. What happened yesterday? Me say Andrew find something else. Get fed up. Boy, there's certain people in the Jamaica Labour Party, the Andrew loyalists them, where Andrew always I go find place, put them. But a very good start, Andrew Holness, John Brown, would be to get rid of the Office of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, an office that we don't need, and an office that we don't know what they might do. That you need to get rid of. That would save the country an awful lot of money. If you want to give Marlene Malahou Fort a job, stick her into the Department of Justice. All she needs in there is a table and chair. You must have an empty office somewhere in a Department of Justice. Can shove Marlene Malahou Fort with the portfolio for legal and constitutional affairs and scrap that entire department. You don't need that department. All you need, if you think you do, is a portfolio in the Department of Justice. So scrap that. Save the country some money. That's an awful double up. Lanford Wilson, waste of money. So if you think you still need the dunceness, the casual dunceness of Marlene Malahou Fort, head teacher Wagwan, then what you ought to do is give Marlene Malahou Fort an office in the Department of Justice and give her that portfolio. But scrap that useless office. It was a double up of the Department of Justice. It wasn't needed. If you think you needed that portfolio could be done under the Department of Justice. So show us in your cabinet reshuffle that you are prepared to listen to the people and that you are listening to all of what people are saying, all the discontents across the nation, whether it be the fact that we don't have no budget, or with Parliament in chaos, or government just get up out of their sleep and walk and tell lie just so. Show us in your cabinet reshuffle that you are listening to what the people are saying. Janet Riley, Andrea Daly, and Jones. So far, even though you promised coming out during the general election, during the local government election campaign, that you have heard going up and down the country, you have heard and you are prepared to listen. Yvette Gonzalez, good morning and welcome. You promised to listen to the people going up and down the country just about 2 months ago. Dave Carter. So show us in your cabinet reshuffle. Because all of the little kerfuffle were gone up at Belmont Road yesterday. That's just purely between UNO Labour insiders. This is about UNO claiming to revamp UNO self for the local, for the general election. What we are waiting for is to hear the changes that you will make in the cabinet. We are also waiting to see if there is a line given the mood across the country. If you are willing to draw a line under the Curtis Speaker saga, those things would show us that you are listening to us. Removing your wife as Speaker of the House would show us that you are listening to us. In particularly of all the big players, removing Dr. Harris Chang, who has overstayed his tenure and has done nothing of his portfolio in the last 8 years. Remove those big players. And that would show us that you're listening. I want them something you always I tell we say pay for read them for. You say we don't pay for read propaganda. What's the problem? All right, let's start with them national thief here. Rona Nigel quarters. It should come off. Hold on there. Well, when you not pay the gleaner, you have to go through the galang in with them, you know. Just spare me a second, please, while I get this article. Me not even know if I go through the whole of them. Let me take a 2-minute break and join you back shortly. Andy Camp, how are you? Just bear with me, people.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What people do in the money, what they at you, in no at you. Covid money, miss away in the yellow correct you. Use the youth, them on the base, must have mantis statue. Say me like a catch you, but bigger than a figure you. Take this spit of money, God, and say that it's not you. One day, the man above end up, him, I got to too much. It in the kitchen, some of fiber like a patu. When singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300% free.
It burn me.
Garbage pile up the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption please.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
For me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The 100 promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, the rapper, they down in our fever. Member bold only and they like.
Thank you very much for waiting and welcome back. We will now move into the TAJ article we released this morning. Let me bring it up as much as I can for you. TAJC guidance as the Office of Information Commissioner dispute Data Protection Act block. Why? If a phone obia, I do not so. Imagine that did somebody else walk up upon the Labour Party. Because we can't, so we never see when Babsy light the candle under the green and white order and a jump round the grotto and the cream soda. We can't, so we never see it. Tax Administration of Jamaica say it will rather be seeking guidance from the country data protection regulator, which has contradicted its claim that the law blocks the release of the name of owners of two properties it is leasing. Tax Administration of Jamaica told the Sunday Gleaner on the 2nd of April that provisions of the Data Protection Act, which it declined to provide, barring it from disclosing who own a property in Anato Basin, Mary, and another in Mandeville, Manchester. An Auditor General report triggered public outrage in March after revealing that the tax administration spent almost $4 million to lease two buildings that remained unoccupied up to last August. In a statement dated 18th April, the Office of the Information Commissioner, OIC, which is the regulator of the Data Protection Act, sought to make it clear that the Data Protection Act cannot be used to frustrate transparency. You hear Andrew Holness and Nigel Clark? Mere disclosure of names of company contracted by any person or entity, whether a government agency or within a private sector, would not be a breach of the Data Protection Act, declared the agency headed by Celia Barkley, Attorney Celia Barkley. You just bear with me there, because we have to roll through them, yeah. Tax Administration of Jamaica responded on Friday following the publication of the OIC position. Tax Administration, however, take careful note of the release and the content therein of the Office of the Information Commissioner, and we will engage the OIC to seek further guidance on the matter and will act accordingly, it said. This is the hypocrisy. The people them say you can't use the Data Protection Act to turn up back at to hide from transparency. Why you go seek further guidance? When everybody knows that adage on the adage and tell lie already, you're going to hear the same thing. What them people are does. However, in its statement on Friday, Tax Administration disclosed that it was relying on Section 2 of the Data Protection Act as it aims to secure the confidentiality of personal data which may be in possession of entity including government authorities. The section detailed how certain terms in law should be interpreted. The TAJ pointed to personal data, which the legislation defines as information, however stored, that relates to a living individual or an individual who has been deceased for less than 30 years. So note those two words, living individual and deceased individual who can be identified from the information alone or from that information and other in the possession of or likely to come into possession of the data controller. The section says the personal data includes any expression of opinion about that individual and any indication of the intention of the data controller or any other person in respect of that individual. TAJ construed this to mean that any piece of information, either by itself or combined with other information that can be used to identify a natural person, is prohibited from disclosure or may only be disclosed in accordance with Section 22 of the Data Protection Act, which prescribed that attendant data protection standard. The agency said, hold on. TAJ's statement did not address Section 23, which creates several conditions under which it can process personal data, one of which is where the processing is necessary for the administration of justice, for the exercise of any function conferred by or under any act, any enactment rather, or for the exercise of any other function of public nature exercised in interest of government. Under this last bit, even if they can hold it from us, from the others, under this last bit, because they keep confusing individual and entity and not confusing, deliberately doing it in order to avoid giving us the details. Other enactment that compelled the release, other enactment that compelled the release, the information includes the Constitution, which gives the public right to receive and disseminate information, and the access to public information, which gives member of the public a general right to access official document held by public authority. Them know that, a whole heap of them that they are liar. Them know. Them just wicked and want to stand behind legislation to further commit them crime while trying to hide it from us. Attorney and expert in data protection law, Chukwuemeka Cameron, said, the question to be asked is whether the subject of the gleaner request is an individual or a legal entity. And this is where the difference matters. Because them keep going on, the government and TAJ keep going on about individual data. In this case, we're talking about entity. Private or public company out there doing business with our government. Hold on. The fact that individual associated with the company may be identified does not act as a constraint, does not prevent you from releasing the information. It is not a hindrance. Especially when the information is available in public registries such as one maintained by Registrar of Companies, Company Offices of Jamaica, he said. He argued further that in instance where a public request relates to an individual determining whether to release the information requires an assessment of whether it is fair to do so, whether it's fair to do so and whether the person has a reasonable expectation of privacy, especially in the context of public contracts and engagement with government entity. So in this paragraph here, what they're talking about is a balancing act. This happens a lot of time in law. It's a new developing area in privacy law in the UK, where you have to balance privacy against public interest. And in this particular scenario, public interest, because it's a government contract that has gone through procurement and all of the bangarangs. So public interest would take priority here over privacy. So this is the privacy law where them are balanced alongside the whole human rights belonging. It's a developing area in Britain, even though a confused case. Naomi Campbell is one of the leading cases in the UK when it comes to privacy law. Naomi Campbell, Boris Johnson, and them. But it's a developing law going through the common law system. So it's a balancing act between public interest and privacy. And in this particular case, public interest would be the overriding factor rather than privacy, because I do business with government. Bear in mind that I'm not focusing on your comments at the moment because I'm not in that slot. When individuals or company enter into contract with the government, particularly on the public procurement process, the expectation of privacy naturally adjusts to the context. Public procurement processes are inherently designed to promote integrity, engender public confidence, and importantly, foster transparency, argued Cameron, who is the founder of consulting firm Design Privacy. He said those objectives are laid out clearly to ensure that activities involving public spending are open to scrutiny by the public to safeguard against corruption and enhance trust in public institutions. Given his framework, one would argue that there is a diminished expectation of privacy for entities or individuals entering into government contracts. This is because such processes requires a level of openness to achieve their intended goals of transparency and public accountability. Therefore, when entities engage in public contracts, especially where public funds are involved, the detail of these contracts, including the identities of the contracting parties, generally should be accessible to the public to scrutinize and evaluate the fairness and appropriateness of the government procurement, Cameron said. According to the lawyer, the TAJ withholding may not conform to the expectation under the Data Protection Act and the transparency principle underpinning government procurement unless justified by other specific and overriding privacy concern directly linked to identifiable individuals. The Office of Information Commissioner has argued that the Data Protection Act does not protect information relating to specifically to entities or organizations, whether public or private, and whether registered or unincorporated. The Act therefore does not prevent any entity from identifying a company with which it does business or provide information relating to the nature of that business, as long as any personal data in process of either or both organization is unlawfully disclosed. The OIC explained that under the data protection law, individuals, private entity, and public authorities are required to handle people data, including sensitive personal data, responsibly and securely in keeping with the data processing standard, which promotes trust and transparency. The Jamaica Labour Party Parliament and Junior Minister Norman Dunn has confirmed that one of his company leased the St. Mary property to TO Tax Administration. The Auditor General said there was no evidence of interference of the process that I don't agree with. Tax Administration Jamaica falls under the Ministry of Finance and Public Service with Dr. Nigel as the minister. So, wanna say it's all about dilly-dallying, running and roaming around the mulberry bush just to avoid accountability and transparency. But before we go into Parler, let me just pop over into the comment for a brief sec and say how they do to a few of you. Rohan Perry, how are you? Good afternoon. Who else has arrived that I have not seen yet? Sylvia Sims. Wagwan, Sylvia, wagwan. You all right? Long time no see. But anyway, summer sun come, even though it look like the summer tap a roadside lap track tail. Because when in the show we say ma come and then all of a sudden we gone right back in the dirty winter jacket them. Isilda Williams, Sonia Smichael, Florence Hamilton, Andy Camp, Sharon Powell, Althea, JP, Honodu. Morning, everybody, and welcome. Christine Gilbert and everyone, Michelle Johnson, Godfrey Davis, Raymond, Elga Fletcher, Sarah Aries. I hope I'm not missing anyone, but anyway, Dave Carter, welcome all. Thank you for joining us. Everybody wants to see the back of Paula. There has been a ruling against her. Pamela Akola, how are you? Colleen Humphreys. There's nothing Andrew can do legislatively to save Paula. Why? He did it and the court just struck it down. But importantly, what the court said in their declaration is that the correct way to do Tony Tall, the correct way to extend the tenure of the DPP is to do it in consensus with the opposition, which is why Andrew Holness cut around the opposition and amend the constitution because the opposition wasn't on board with it. Another of the argument, and I stand to be corrected on this, but this, from my understanding, was a part of Mr. Wildman and Valrenita's lawsuit against the DPP, is that when she, I may not be right, but Beaton teacher, anyway, a few who remember, the tenure that ended in 2023, September of last year, let us read. I'm sure the argument Hugh Wildman and Valrenita took to court is that appointment was unconstitutional because she was appointed after her 60th birthday. I clearly remember that argument. So if that is one of their arguments and the court ruled on that, Paula would have been there unconstitutionally and illegally for much longer than we are thinking of. But I am hoping because that other ruling should come down anytime soon. No, but I'm sure you're still there, Beat and Teach. That was a part of but brushing or not, Beat and Teach. Me not care if them brush him in at the meeting yesterday. What I want to see, if them brush him in at the meeting, then throw him under the bus come the cabinet reshuffle. And which day of the week again them have them press, them cabinet post cabinet press briefing. I do believe other day that the wrangle I go start. But yes, a part of that lawsuit that Wildman and Nita took against the DPP was that tenure that ended in September of last year was on the reshuffle fido. But backed up again, hold on, do you remember me which part me tap Panita Wildman? It's only yesterday, I don't know how much I did know. It's only the unfolding of this debacle. And we realize, say, 3 weeks ago, the tenure of the public, what the office the name again, Public Service Commission expired. And Andrew just leave it vacant. So only because of this debacle, them have to do a rush, quick appointment yesterday even to install that person in place so that person can appoint the acting DPP. Just like remember, when the office of the political ombudsman came, the first 4-year tenure came to an end in 2022, Andrew held the office vacant until he swindled it off into his office a few weeks before the local government election. We now watch Andrew dictatorship close enough. Hugh Wildman lost that case, you said, okay. But they have another ruling coming, Beat and Teach, is it not? Hugh Wildman have another case against the DPP in court to be ruled on. But a long time Andrew is sidestepping the rules and the norms and see him wife join force with him the minute she was given the high seat the wife joined force with him and changed the norms. The only American president on a know for rip up and disobey conventions or constitutional norms was Donald Trump. Have you not seen Andrew Holness doing the same thing? Remember from long time, and just now, Muta Baruka called him Baby Trump. Maybe now we have to go call them Mother Duck and Father Duck. So the Service Commission Office, and you have to make sure run quickly, put it in place in order to solve Audrey Patterson, the unfolding problem we are going now, where from Friday, it's identifiable a constitutional crisis without any of the major mainstream media reporting that the country is in a constitutional crisis. How did we get there? The executive, which also has its majority in the legislature, uses its majority in the legislature, the executive, which have the legislative agenda. They use the executive to strong arm and ring fence the Constitution in order to give extra lifetime to a particular DPP. It would have extended beyond, but they want to subject it to this current DPP to extend her as it is now ruled unconstitutionally, because the correct process is for the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition to do that in consensus. And the Holness legislate around that. The court, which is the other arm of the Constitution, because remember we have the executive and the legislature, which is already the other two major arms, that Andrew Holness is using his power and majority to maneuver those two. The court, which is the guardian of the Constitution, the other power base of the Constitution, says, no, you have legislate unconstitutionally, and you have gone wrong about extending the DPP tenure. The minute Andrew Holness, Paula Llewellyn, declaration from the court, it's a crisis. The three arms of the Constitution is locked into dispute. And the dispute they're locked into over is another powerful office of the Constitution, the Director of Public Prosecution, which under the Constitution has the power to step into any criminal court, takes over a case, stop a case without a defense, a judge, or anyone can say anything to her. Pari Mariali. So from that ruling came down on Friday, and they did not obey the ruling. We immediately fell into a constitutional crisis where the three arms of government and a powerful constitutional office is in headlock. We also have as well a crisis in our legislature where the speaker and the speaker and the retired clerk is at loggerheads. We're in another crisis also where Nigel Clark came to Parliament, asked for 5 minutes to dot him I's and cross him T's, if you remember carefully, before he presented his budget to us. But by the time Nigel present his budget and run off to recess, we find out, say, breeze blow off about a dozen pieces of zinc off of the house and hold just the all salt all over in the roof. So. And since that, Nigel Clark is nowhere to be found. So we haven't got a legal budget at the moment where Barra, Chus, and Ho. Barra, Chus, and Ho. So the country is in a constitutional crisis, as well as a political chaos in the Jamaica Labour Party. And you have a spending calamity because we don't have a legal budget to pay public servants when it comes to the end of the month. Could it get any worse than this? Or are you expecting it to get worse than this? Of course it will, as long as we leave the Jamaica Labour Party in charge. Look at TV. As long as the people refuses to push back on what we have as a crooked, destructive regime who loots and shoot to our budget day in, day out, they will continue until you decide we're not going to do something. But make we focus on lady lack integrity, lady incompetent, lady borderline dunce, lady bareface crook, lady who sent tainted jury into deliberation and accept tainted jury convict. And I'm saying, Paula, don't stare in my face like I'm here tell lie on you. Your words. So me don't want to kill up on yourself suffer. Because I say, I know the first we do it. Them are regular something for me. But will appoint an acting DPP until the post is filled with another crony and another corrupt, inept, incompetent buffoon, as Paula has diminished her historical role as the first female director of public prosecution. But I'm sure a lot of us will draw her down in history as the most inept, incompetent, and corrupt director of public prosecution. The director of public prosecution, which is confused by Section 5 or Section 45 of the Firearms Act. The director of public prosecution who have indicted a case wrongfully. The director of public prosecution who rather than taking a state case appeal to the court, take a case to the court to overturn, to get a retrial because she indicted the case wrongly. Your tenure, Miss Llewellyn, is shrouded by your incompetency, your corruption, your nepotism, and your conflict of interest. That is what, Miss Llewellyn, your tenure as the first female director of public prosecution will be remembered for. Paula Llewellyn, a long-standing director of public prosecution, has decided to step aside in the wake of the controversy over the various interpretation of Friday's Constitutional Court ruling on the validity of her extended tenure, rather. With the court determining that the extension last year was unconstitutional, null, and of no legal effect. The disagreement over whether Llewellyn could return to office this week spilled over into weekend and threatened to leave the justice system in chaos on Monday morning. Late yesterday afternoon, the Attorney General Chamber said that due to the ambiguity You're meant to be the highest legal officer, sir. Due to the ambiguity and consequent uncertainty from the court ruling, the DPP has advised that she is unable to carry out the function of her office at this time. The Attorney General indicated that in accordance with Section 90, subsection 3 of the Constitution, the Public Services Commission, PSC, would be invited to appoint a qualified person to act in the role for the time being. With no DPP in place, some judges speaking with the Gleaner yesterday were adamant that court matters could continue on Monday, but prosecutors were concerned about moving forward with no lead in the office of the DPP. Last night, however, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck told the Gleaner that the new membership of the Public Service Commission had been appointed on Sunday. So yesterday, for 3 weeks, Andrew have the office vacant because the office tenure expired on the 31st of March. And yesterday was the 21st of April. 3 weeks, Andrew have the office vacant. When you know so the tenure has come to an end, the 31st of March this year, you would, if you want to honestly appoint the office, you would have a predecessor awaiting appointment on the 1st of April. It's not rocket science. As a government continuity in government or administration, I saw it work. Ah, Jesus, what a pain ahead. I can drink little water. Andrew Holness government is a type of wet maga make it pop off there. So there's no continue. It was the same thing with the office of the political ombudsman. It was vacant from 2002. And since last 2 months, it has been in confusion. Anyway, it maga, it pop off there. So last night, however, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck told the Gleaner that the new membership of the Public Service Commission has been appointed on Sunday, and the acting DPP would be appointed today, quelling such concern. I hope I put Cathy Pike there about a leader being in place in the office of the Director of Public Prosecution. At the same time, in its statement, the Attorney General said, after carefully considering the judgment and in the public interest, the Attorney General will be appealing the full court decision immediately to have the issue resolved and determined by the appeals court, which the appeals court will tell us a fool. The law is the law, is the law, is the law. There's no way around the law is the law. Last Friday, the court said the change in the Constitution in July last year to raise the age of retirement of the DPP and the Auditor General from 60 to 65 was valid. So the court has no problem in raising the age of the DPP. No problem with that. However, the amendment allowing Ms. Llewellyn to choose to remain was wrong. So they amend the Constitution, giving the DPP the right to decide if she wants to retire before 65 or not. And the court is saying that is wrong. When them pass 60, if you forgive them the extension, it needs to be any extension after them appointment need to be in consensus with the opposition. There's no legislative loop around it. So what you're going back to court on is wasting taxpayers' money, because Okay, so you're appealing the judgment, the ruling in its entirety. Are you also appealing? Let me make sure I say a sudden answer. At the same time, in a statement, the Attorney General Office said, after carefully considering the judgment and the public interest, the Attorney General will be appealing the full court decision immediately. So are you saying then, Delroy Chuck, help us here? Not Delroy Chuck, Derek McCoy, the Attorney General or Justice Minister said that. Let me look. Attorney General. Help us to understand this bit here also. So you disagree with the court agreement with the amendment because you didn't say you're appealing that part, a particular part of you say you're appealing the entire judgment. Are you also appealing where the court agree with you that it's okay to raise the general retirement age of the DPP as in question here, not the Auditor General, the DPP age to 65. So are you saying you disagree with that also because you're saying you're appealing against it in the full judgment? Quite confusing. However, the amendment allowed Llewellyn to choose to remain was wrong. The court ruled that the incumbent DPP has already reached the extended retirement age, which means that the application of Section 2, subsection 2, cannot lead to another extension by way of another election on the part of the incumbent DPP was unlawful. The DPP reached age of retirement in 2020, but got a 3-year extension, which ended in 2023 September. Opposition lawmaker Philip Powell and Peter Bunting challenged the amendment to the Constitution that the Attorney General was the respondent on the matter. King's Counsel Michael Hilton, who represented Powell and Bunting, argued that the ruling meant that Llewellyn would have to leave office immediately. However, the other parties, including the Attorney General Chamber and Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck, were of different views. On April 19, a media release from the Attorney General Chamber stated that the claimants have interpreted the order of the court as having the effect of removing the incumbent DPP. No order has been issued to that effect, the statement said. A declaration, you don't need to issue an order after you make a declaration. You make a declaration of what the law is, and then it's for you, the dumb old dunce, to obey the law. The court don't need to make an order here that Miss Llewellyn should be removed. The court already states it's unconstitutional, null and void, of no legal effect. Dummy. Which part of that you don't understand? Even me, the dunce, would know better. But then again, you're the top legal officers. You're the top legal officers in this country. We're not going mad with. Early yesterday, opposition leader Mark Golden chastised the Attorney General and Chuck over their interpretation of the judgment and called for their immediate resignation. Hilton also sent a letter yesterday to the law firm Livingston, Alexander and Levy, with attention of King's Counsel Alan Woods, representing the respondent, in which he pointed out that the statement from the Attorney General's office suggests that, in the view of the Attorney General and public statement from Chuck, the judgment did not affect Llewellyn's status as DPP, and she was still entitled to exercise powers of that office. one is, of course, entitled to question whether the judgment is correct and to challenge an appeal. However, in our respectful view, the intent and effect of the judgment are plain, Hilton outlined in his letter. It was further pointed out by Hilton that if Llewellyn continued to exercise power of the office as initially commented by Chuck and McCoy suggested, her actions might not have been saved by Section 96, Section 2, subsection 2 of the Constitution, and the country might have been plunged into a true constitutional crisis. The section makes provision for whatever ruling or prosecution the DPP did before the judgment on Friday to be valid. Yes, that's the section Mark Golding also spoke about in his press conference last Friday. Section 96, subsection 2 would give validity to any work Paula done under her unconstitutional tenure before Friday's ruling. But if she were to continue practicing this morning as Director of Public Prosecution, then they could not rely on Section 96, subsection 2 of the Constitution to validate her work, and there would be a legal challenge to that. A legal expert asked to comment on the crisis that was likely to take place in the court if Llewellyn did not step aside, told the Gleaner that to avoid chaos today at court, the government should have instructed the Public Service Commission to hold an emergency meeting over the weekend for the Governor General to appoint an acting DPP. Secondly, the legal expert said, the Attorney General should make an application to the said court for the judges to clarify their order if there is any confusion. This is known as the slip rule, which allows a party to the action to seek clarity. That's the end of the article. That only shows more of the Jamaica Labour Party dunceness. That's all it shows. Just like how them are run round after the Information Commission Sharon Pate, DCA Smith, Georgia Dennis. After the Ubuntu, after the Information Commission tell them, you can't hide behind Pamela McNeil. June Plum 26, how are you? You cannot hide behind data protection to avoid transparency. Them still run up and down and say them are going to look guidance. The court rule against them, then say everybody else but them, the liar and the crooks and the criminal, that is confused. Ono don't say, Chanel Williams, how are you? Ono don't say everything this government does is to avoid accountability, block transparency, avoid good governance, even if it is to mess up the legislative process, even if it is, Maureen Cummins, to hijack your constitution. This government, this regime has shown us from them in opposition that they are not afraid to break the rules to get what they want. From signed undated letter to get rid of your senators as leader of the opposition, to taking the country into the mess of walking out on your people, the people who you promised that you are going to listen to, tell blatant lies to those people, has raided through their budget regularly, unable to give accountability, Vernon Adams, for your wealth and success. But don't say that house. But don't say that house is him. I go on interfere with politics, Colin Dormer, Vernon Timpson. Let me see how much I don't like the life because we know something wrong with a finger. See there? Judgment. No. No man, hit the like button, please. It is really not fair for me one just sit down and gabba galang so. And on sit down with a finger on the side. No man. Do look better than that with a finger. Do look better than that with a finger. Or may I go start spin Zelle, PayPal, with the other one named Cash Up like Lady Saw. Because Lady Saw collect offering in a church. And Lady Saw still a pin Zelle. Forget offering pan line and offering in a pew. But never mind them. But as we said, remember, a sexual predator is on the loose in Jamaica. Do not, I repeat, do not allow your children around Kirk Franklin and Babsy Grange. Do not allow your children around Kirk Franklin and Babsy Grange. Sexual predator on the loose in Jamaica. Kirk Franklin cannot control himself. And a me so. Kirk Franklin cannot control his sexual addiction and sexual torment. Be aware of sexual predator in your neck of the woods. Good morning from Global Television if you're on the Eastern timeline, and if you're in London and the Greenwich Mean Time and in the United Kingdom, good afternoon from Global Television, and wherever in the world you are, if it's good morning or good afternoon to you, it is good morning, good afternoon from the Global Television Group. Join us back tonight for the People's Point of View, 11 p.m. UK time. Don't know where it be, pound Eastern time, at either 5 or 6, somewhere along that line. But if you are subscribed and if you hit your notification bell, you certainly will be notified when we put our live broadcast out. So good morning and thank you all very much for being here. Sean Hall, how are you? The singer Kirk Franklin, the foreign singer Kirk Franklin. The gospel Kirk Franklin, who only love listen to him music. A predator is on the loose in Jamaica. Carter Turner, how are you? Millicent Jones. So, when I have, isn't that the reason why they want to come to Jamaica? Obviously, Ubuntu. Obviously. Yes, Kirk Franklin, a sex predator and sex addict. I also don't listen to him interview them. And him tell us him he have sexual addiction when he can't control. And those are the predators. But anyway, when I come back later for the people's point of view, sorry, some farmer development may go on in the neck of the woods, but Paula Llewellyn, it's not even worth celebrating because you have messed Sonia Barracks, the integrity of the office up. You have messed the integrity of powerful women in our country up. There is really nothing to celebrate. The truth is, and I must make this clear, I see it all over social media, where a lot of people are making it about Paula about cartel. This case that was taken to court has nothing to do with Paula, has nothing to do with cartel. It's about Andrew's use of the legislature to strong arm the Constitution in order to violate the office of the DPP. That was what the People's National Party claim was about. It wasn't anything to do with Paula personally. It's not anything to do with moving her because she not fit upon the cartel case or whatever. Nothing to do with that. It was about Andrew, the executive use of the legislature in strong arming the Constitution. That is what they took to court and won. So it's not about Paula. It's not about cartel. So don't make it about that in social media land. It was about protecting your Constitution and your rule of law. Good afternoon from Global Television.